I'm 93 years old, and my children tried to put me in a nursing home. They had the brochures and everything, but I stopped them. I'm still here, in my own house, drinking my own tea. Let me tell you what happened. It started when my daughter Margaret came over. She had that look. You know the one. It's a look that says, "We need to talk about your future." My son Robert was with her. They sat me down for a family meeting. That's just a nice word for an ambush. Margaret started talking about safety and support. Her words were soft, like she was tucking me in. Robert mentioned the stairs. He said he worried about ice in the winter. I just drank my tea. I was thinking about the big oak tree outside. My Henry is buried under it. He always said, "Hold fast, Ellie." Then Margaret said it. The words I knew were coming. She said, "We think it's time." I asked, "Time for what?" My voice was small. It surprised me. Margaret reached for my hand. She said it was time for a place with people around all the time. No more worries. She described a beautiful facility. It sounded like a hotel, a very clean, lonely hotel. Robert nodded but wouldn't look at me. That's when I felt it, a cold feeling in my bones. This wasn't a discussion. This was them telling me a decision they'd already made. I felt the walls of my house, my home, just fading away. They were so sure they were being kind. I said I was tired and went to Henry's study. That room is my secret place. It still smells like his pipe tobacco. I am Elizabeth in there, not just Mom. I went to his old desk. In the top drawer under some maps, I found the deed to our house, and I found his battle book. That's what he called it. Henry was a lawyer. He thought ahead. I felt something wake up in my chest. They had their plan. I had Henry's ghost. That night, I opened the book. His handwriting was so familiar. Page after page of legal notes. Things about rights and capacity. He was getting ready for this. For me. In the back, there was a list titled Ellie's Arsenal. It was a list of documents. I found the power of attorney papers I'd signed for the kids. Henry had underlined a part. It said, "Major health decisions needed both kids to agree or a judge." They weren't both agreed. Robert's heart wasn't in it. Then I saw a business card paperclipped to the page. It said, "David Chen, Geriatric Care Manager. Tell him I sent you." I almost cried. That brilliant man. The next morning, I called David before Margaret came over. David Chen was young and calm. He looked at me and listened. He didn't talk to me like I was old. He talked to me like I was a person. I showed him Henry's book. He read it and nodded. Then he asked me the best question. He said, "Mrs. Vance, what does your day look like when it's a good day?" I told him. My tea at sunrise, my slow walk to the mailbox, my afternoon with a book, the simple rhythm of my life here. He said we weren't going to fight. We were going to build a case. He called it a capacity cascade. My first job was to see my doctor alone, without the kids. Getting to the doctor was a small act of rebellion. Dr. Evans has seen me for 30 years. I asked him for a full checkup, for a family report. He understood right away. He said, "Margaret and Robert are pushing for Shady Acres, aren't they?" He did the test. I remembered things. I drew a clock. I walked in a line. My heart was good. My mind was clear. He wrote it all down. He signed the paper and said, "You're sharper than half my staff, Elizabeth. This is your life. This report says you can still live it." That paper felt like armor. David came back with a nice woman named Maria. They walked through my house. They didn't look for problems. They looked for fixes. Maria liked the grab bars Henry put in the bathroom. She suggested a shower chair. David talked to my neighbor, Mrs. Henderson. She said she checks on me every day. He wrote down about my meal deliveries and my pharmacy. He took pictures of my clear hallways and my emergency phone. He was making a blueprint for me to stay. We wrote a care plan. It showed my whole support system. It was strong. For the first time, I saw my life as something sturdy, not something fragile. The last part was the hardest. I had to talk to Robert, just him. I asked him for tea. He came over, tense. I was calm. I showed him the doctor's report and the care plan. I said, "This is what support looks like, Robbie. It doesn't have to be a place. It can be a plan." I saw him struggling. He's a good son. He worries. Then I told him about the power of attorney clause, the one that said they both had to agree. I said, "I know you're not sure about this. Your doubt is my lifeline." He cried then. He said, "I just worry, Mom. I don't want you to fall." I held his hand. I said, "I might fall, but if I do, it will be in my own home. That is a risk I choose." He looked at the papers. He looked at me, and he nodded. That was it. The agreement was broken. Then I called a real family meeting. Margaret had her brochures all ready. I let her talk. Then I started. I didn't beg. I presented. I laid out the medical report, the home assessment, Mrs. Henderson's statement, the financial plan, David Chin's number. I looked at them both. I said, "You showed me your solution. This is mine. It is legal, it is medical, it is safe, and it is my choice. The paper you have requires you both to agree to move me. Robert does not agree." Margaret's face went red. She was shocked. She tried to argue, but her words hit those documents and fell flat. The emotional talk was over. This was about facts. She stared at me. She was really seeing me, maybe for the first time in years. She saw Elizabeth. We made a deal. We called it the Vance Plan. David checks in every few months. Robert handles my bills. Margaret sets up my doctor visits. My neighbor gets a little thank you for checking on me. The brochures went in the trash. After they left, I sat in my chair by the window. I looked at Henry's oak tree. I was so tired, but I felt a quiet win. I held my ground. not with yelling, with paperwork. I bought myself more sunrises here. I bought the right to finish my own story. I could almost hear Henry. Well done, Ellie. So listen, if your family says it's time, do this first. Don't just get upset. Get your arsenal. Find your version of David Chin. See your doctor alone. Write down how you live. Build your case on facts, not feelings. You have more power than you think. It's in your files. It's in your mind. Fight for your right to your own home. It's not about being stubborn. It's about being the boss of your own life. Don't just go along. Make a plan. Your last chapters belong to you. Now my tea is cold and I have a sunrise to watch. Now my tea is cold and I have a sunrise to watch. But the story isn't just about winning that one meeting. The real work started the next day. Margaret was quiet, too quiet. She brought groceries over, but she moved through my kitchen like a ghost. She didn't mention the Vance plan. She didn't mention Shady Acres. It was worse than arguing. It was this thick silence. I knew she was waiting for me to fail, waiting for a mistake. One fall, one forgotten pill. That's all she needed to call the whole thing off. It was like living under a microscope. I felt more pressure than before. Then, about 3 weeks later, I did have a bad day. My arthritis was terrible. It was raining. I felt stiff and slow. I decided not to walk to the mailbox. I just stayed in my chair. I must have dozed off. When I woke up, Margaret was there. She was standing in the doorway, holding my mail. She had a key, of course. "You didn't pick up your mail, Mom," she said. Her voice was careful. "I called twice. You didn't answer the phone." I told her I was just resting, that my knees hurt. She nodded and put the mail down. "See, this is what I worry about," she said, and then she left. It wasn't mean, it was just a fact, and it scared me, because she was right. What if I had fallen? What if it was serious? That night I felt real fear for the first time since finding Henry's book. What if my plan was just pride? What if I was being selfish? I almost called David Chin to call it all off. But then I looked at Henry's chair, and I got angry. Not at Margaret, at myself, for doubting. I made a decision. I couldn't just have a plan on paper. I had to prove I could live it every single day. So I started my own routine. I got a big wall calendar. Every morning I got up, made my tea, and I marked the day with a big X. If I took my walk, I put a check. If I took my pills, I put a star. I made Mrs. Henderson my official check-in. I told her to knock at noon every day. If I didn't answer after 2 tries, she had permission to use her key. I gave David Chin's number to her too. I wasn't just waiting for help. I was managing it. I was the boss. The big test came in the winter, a real ice storm. The kind Henry used to fret about. The power went out. My phone line went dead. I was ready. I had flashlights right by my chair. I had blankets. I had a battery-powered radio. I stayed in my living room, wrapped in a quilt, listening to the storm. I wasn't scared. I was prepared. In the morning, Robert showed up, his face pale with worry. He found me reading by the window, using the morning light. "Mom, are you okay? The phones are down." I told him I was fine. I showed him my emergency kit. He just stared. Then he hugged me, a real tight hug. "Okay," he whispered. "Okay, Mom." That was the moment he really believed in the plan. Not on paper, but in his heart. But Margaret, she took longer. The change happened slowly. She saw my calendar. She saw me checking in with Mrs. Henderson. She started coming over not to inspect, but to have lunch. We'd sit and talk, not about my health, about her job, about her kids, normal talk. One day she was helping me put away dishes. She saw Henry's battle book on the counter. She picked it up. She didn't open it. She just held it. "He really thought of everything, didn't he?" she said. Her voice was soft. I told her yes, he thought of me. She put the book down and looked at me. "I was so scared," she said. "I am still scared, but I see you now. I see you're still in there." That was all she said, but it was enough. The war was over. We were just mother and daughter again. That was all she said, but it was enough. The war was over. We were just mother and daughter again. And you know what? That's when the real loneliness started. It's a strange thing to say after fighting so hard to be alone. But it's true. I got my quiet. I got my sunrises. And I sat in them, and I realized Henry wasn't just in the breeze or the smell of his pipe. He was gone. The house was so quiet, I could hear every clock tick. I had won my kingdom back, and it was empty. Margaret came for lunch every Tuesday. Robert did my bills online. Mrs. Henderson knocked at noon. It worked. The plan worked perfectly, and I was desperately, utterly lonely. I started talking to the furniture, to the photograph of Henry on the mantel. I'd tell him about the news or the color of the leaves. He never answered, not really. One Tuesday, Margaret was telling me about her daughter's soccer game. She was talking a mile a minute, and I looked at her, this woman in her 60s with my mother's hands, and I realized I had no idea who she was. I knew her as my child. I didn't know her as a person. All those years, she was just Margaret, my daughter, and I was just Mom. We never got to be anything else. That was my breaking point. It wasn't a fall. It wasn't a missed pill. It was a Tuesday lunch. She was cutting my meat for me, the way she had since the arthritis got bad. She did it without thinking. And I said, "Stop." It came out sharp. She froze. I said, "Just stop, Margaret, please." She put the knife down. Her face closed up. She thought I was being difficult again. Stubborn old Elizabeth. I took a breath. It hurt. I said, I don't want you to cut my meat. I want you to tell me why you're so sad. Her face just crumpled. She wasn't sad about the meat. She was sad about everything. She looked at me and she said it. I'm tired, Mom. I'm so tired. I'm managing my life and Dad's ghost and your life, and I'm just tired. I wanted Shady Acres because I wanted someone else to be in charge for once. It broke me right there because I saw it. I had been fighting for my sovereignty, and she had been drowning. I was so busy building my case, I never saw her case. She wasn't the enemy. She was a tired woman who missed her father and was scared of losing her mother. I started to cry. She started to cry. We sat at the kitchen table and cried together for the first time in maybe 40 years. I had won my house, but I had lost my daughter. Not to anger, but to this distance. This manager-client relationship we'd made with all our plans and documents. The cost of my victory was that I'd proven I didn't need her. And a mother should always need her child. Just a little. That's the deal. I realized I'd been so fierce about being Elizabeth, I'd forgotten how to be Mom. I held her hand, this old woman's hand that was so like my own, and I said, I'm sorry. I was just so scared. And she said, I know, Mom. I was scared too. We sat there in the quiet, not eating our lunch. The war was really over then, because we'd both surrendered. We sat there in the quiet, not eating our lunch. The war was really over then, because we'd both surrendered. And that surrender, that was the beginning of the peace, the real peace. Here's what I learned, sitting at that table, holding my daughter's hand. I was wrong, not about wanting to stay. That was always right. I was wrong about the fight. I thought the fight was against my children. It wasn't. The fight was against fear, theirs and mine. And I was so busy building my fortress of paperwork, I forgot to leave a gate open for love. I forgot that love doesn't always look like agreement. Sometimes it looks like a tired woman cutting your meat, because that's the only way she knows how to say, I don't want to lose you. I mistook her fear for control, and she mistook my fear for stubbornness. We were both so busy being afraid, we stopped seeing each other. That taught me something. The most important document isn't a power of attorney or a care plan. It's the unwritten contract between a parent and a child. The one that says, I will let you care for me, and in return, I will let you see that I'm still here. I had to learn to need her again, not in a helpless way, but in a human way. I started asking for her opinion on small things. What color should I paint the kitchen wall? Should I try this new tea? I started telling her stories about her father she'd never heard. Not the grand ones, but the silly, small ones. The time he tried to fix the toaster and fused all the lights. The way he snored like a distant train. I let her see me miss him. I let her see me be lonely. And in doing that, I stopped being a case to manage and started being her mother again. A mother who is old and sometimes sad, but present. So my advice to you, if you're in my chair, is this. Do everything I did first. Get your documents. See your doctor. Build your plan. Fight with paper and facts. That's your right. But then put the paper down. Look at your children. Really look. They are not your keepers. They are people who are watching you walk toward a door they can't follow you through, and it terrifies them. Their push for a nursing home is rarely about convenience. It's about that terror. They want you safe where they can picture you. So after you show them your plan, show them your heart. Say the scary thing. Say, I'm scared too. Say, I miss your father every day. Say, I don't want to be a burden. Let them see your fear, and then listen to theirs. Don't perform independence. Share your vulnerability. That's the glue. That's what turns a care plan into a covenant. You still have time. Maybe not years of it, but you have now. And now is enough to mend a bridge, to change a tone, to turn an argument into a conversation. This isn't about winning. It's about understanding. Your last chapters are yours to write, yes, but let them be read aloud to someone you love. Let someone else hold the book sometimes. That's not losing your sovereignty. That's sharing your story. The scent of lavender and old paper is still my world, but now it's also the scent of Margaret's perfume when she leans to hug me, and the sound of Robert's laugh when he comes in the door. I held on to my house, but in learning to let go of my pride, I got my family back. That's the victory that matters, the one that happens after the war is over. If this story found its way to you, maybe it was meant to. Maybe you're at the start of this, dreading that family meeting. Or maybe you're in the middle of it, feeling that cold isolation. I hope my Henry's Battle book gave you an idea. But more than that, I hope our kitchen table tears gave you some hope. It's not too late for the plan or for the peace. If this resonated with you, would you do me a kindness? Would you tap that subscribe? It's how you let me know you're out there, and it helps these stories find their way to others who might need to hear them. Turn on those notifications too, so you don't miss what comes next. I'd be so grateful if you'd leave a comment below and tell me, what's the one thing in your home you'd fight the hardest to keep? Your chair by the window? Your garden? Your own Henry's study? I read every one. And if you know someone, a friend, a parent, a neighbor, who is facing this same hard conversation, please share this with them.